Romans chapter 8, verses 18 through 30. This passage is about time, and I think it will be helpful to visually imagine a timeline, past, present, and future. And the past is suffering, the future is glory, and we live right in the middle, and we live in hope. We are people of hope. The past, and I think you know this already, but let me review this really quickly. Adam and Eve sinned, they rebelled, and by that, sin entered and marred a perfectly good world. And we are born sinful. It's not just that we are sinful, but all of creation is sinful and broken. Death, disease, systemic injustice, war, the meaningless of our work, broken relationships, broken families. I mean, think of a perfectly pure glass of water. Now, just imagine putting a single drop of really poisonous, nasty stuff in the water and stirring it just a little bit. And then the whole thing's contaminated. It's all affected. That's a corruption of the world. That's the past. And then the future is glory. Christ came to fix this world. We talked about the word redeem. Christ came to buy the world back from Satan, redeem the captive, pay the ransom for the hostage. That's us. But the world is also held hostage. And in the future, the world will be restored. At the end of all time, at this present world will come to an end, and a new world will begin. The Bible calls it the new heaven and the new earth. It will be a world that is something like the world as if Adam and Eve had never sinned. And you and I will inhabit that world. We'll live in it. And we'll live lives without sin. And that will be glory. Now, when I say that, maybe the image that comes to mind is you list your top 5 habitual stubborn sins that you can't seem to kick. But in the future, you will kick it. What if, for example, you're addicted to smoking cigarettes and you really want it to stop because you know it's bad for you, and so you try the nicotine patch, you try the nicotine gum, but no matter how hard you try, you can't seem to muster up the willpower or self-control to quit, and it's frustrating you, and you feel bad about yourself because you just can't do it. And so in the new heavens and the new earth, you won't smoke. Just like that. Yay, you're not addicted to that nasty habit anymore. Okay, well, probably in the new creation, there'll be no smoking or vaping, fine. But, you know, the glory that I'm talking about goes much deeper than that. So let me try to squeeze in one quick, tiny illustration. I mean, think about your family or think about your friendships and relationships, past and present, the people that are close to you, the ones that you love, and the loves that have shaped and formed you. But even the best friendships or family relationships are marred by sin, brokenness, hurt, betrayal, damage. And as much as the love that has shaped us in good ways, the sin has also damaged us. And so we carry that past brokenness with us into the present and likely into the future. And in fact, if we've been hurt, we end up hurting others. If we've been broken, we've ended up breaking other people as well, and we feel terrible about that. And I want you to imagine a world where that damage is gone. It's done. You will never be hurt by anyone again, and you will never hurt anyone again. And the scars and the damage that we carry on us in our bodies, it's resolved. That bitterness and the resentment that we try so hard to let go, but it still remains in us like a stain that won't get washed away. It's gone. It's forgiven. It's wiped clean. I mean, all the bad in the world just goes away. But this is just a tiny part of what Paul's writing about with regards to the future and glory. Glory is not just the absence of the bad. In verse 18, Paul writes, I consider our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. The future is glory. Your future is glory. And what does that word mean? I think it's very hard for us to imagine and think about glory. It's not just the absence of the bad, but it's the presence of, well, glory. Now, I think, again, we have one of those very churchy words that we never use outside the church, glory. We just hear it, but we don't really know what it means, not really. It means magnificence, radiance, splendor. In our modern contemporary world, we don't really use words like glory. I think partly because everything has become so casual and laid back in our world and our culture. I guess you'd have to imagine that moment when someone becomes the MVP after winning the Super Bowl, or maybe the Super Bowl halftime show. You know, that's all we have as terms of glory in our own culture. I mean, if you've ever been to a natural wonder like the Grand Canyon or Niagara Falls, I mean, that gives you a sense of power, size, and overwhelming majesty and beauty. I mean, that is glory. Our culture seems to value being grounded, genuine, and honest. I mean, we really want things that are approachable and intimate, real, honest. And so we don't like rituals. That seems fake and phony to us. And we shy away from things that are done on an epic scale. We don't like grandeur. As an aside, I really love old traditional hymns. And I really love traditional hymns when they are sung in a gigantic stone cathedral with a massive pipe organ, because some of these hymns just feel so otherworldly and they capture a glimpse of the glory of God. I also like going to gigantic stone cathedrals with impossibly high ceilings and gigantic stained glass that shines transcendent light into these cavernous halls. It's breathtaking, and I think I like it because it reminds me of glory. It's just a tiny fraction of the glory of God. The sort of grandeur and epic scale I'm describing, I mean, yeah, it can be pompous and pretentious. It can feel fake and snobby. I understand there's a reason why we've shied away from that, and so our modern culture keeps things grounded and relatable. And that's actually good in some ways, keeps things intimate and close and human, but I'm afraid it shrinks our imagination. And so it's hard for us to even think about the meaning of words like glory. But we have to. God is glory. Paul says we don't just get to witness glory. We don't just merely participate in glory. Paul writes, the glory will be revealed in us. The glory of God is displayed in you, and you are God's masterpiece. You are the greatest thing God has ever done, and the work of grace he's doing in you is majestic. It's glorious. You are God's glory on display. But that's not now. Right now, Paul says we are suffering, but we live in hope. How do we endure the suffering we're going through right now? Well, it's hope. It's hope for a future of glory that's not here yet, but it is coming.